first and then graph. 3, 4, 5. How many of you graphed this and then brought it back to algebra? So only 7 people in the class did the first question. Because only 7 people put their hands up for the first one, and then nobody put their hands up for the second one. So that means that the other 23 people in the class didn't do it. Okay, just making sure. Make sure when I collect your marks that you tell me you got 0 for this question if you didn't put your hand up at all for those 2 questions. Because those are the only 2 ways you could have done it. Of course, if you go algebra first, you would isolate y. So 3y would equal negative 2x plus 4. Y would equal negative 2/3 x plus 4/3. So if you did that, you would then come over to here and say, ooh, yuck, 4/3. I better change the scale. 1, 2, 3, and make that 1, which makes each square worth how much? 1/3. So you put your first dot at 4/3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1. Can you keep the same scale? Yes. So I would then go down 1, 2, and write 1, 2, 3. And that's what it should look like. Now, let's say you didn't change your scale. That's okay. If you didn't change your scale, 4/3 is just a little bit above the first square, yes? And then I would have had to go down 2, 1, 2, to just a little bit above negative 1 and over 1, 2, 3. And I would get that line. Both of them would be acceptable. Okay? Now, if I were marking this, I would be giving 2 for this side and 1 for the graph, making a total of 3. If I were to point out where I would expect to see your mistakes, I would have expected a bunch of you to forget that this 3 goes to the 4. I would expect if I were marking this for you, I would see a bunch of Y-intercepts of positive 4 and slopes of negative 2/3. That would be my guess. Is that what happened? I see a few people nodding. Remember, what did I tell you is the most important skill for these next 3 units? Actually, the next 5 units. You must be able to do algebra. You must. I cannot stress it enough. At the end of this unit, at the end of unit 4, I often have to do a day of algebra review because you're bad at it. It's not your fault, but I often have to do a day of review. Graph using x and y intercepts. Again, this time you're really kind of stuck. Of course, x, 0, 0, y. When x 0, what happens to the y value? What's the y value there? So what happens to that? It's gone. And I got 5x minus 15 equals 0. 5x equals 15. X equals 3. 3, 0. Should I put it on the graph right now? You shouldn't, because what if the y is a fraction and you need to decide to change the scale? Over here, the x drops, yes. Oh, yes, thank you. It started out as positive 15 and then moves over to become negative 15, negative 3. Negative 10y plus 15 equals 0. Negative 10y equals negative 15y equals 1.5. So it was indeed a fraction. So what should I change the scale to? I would use halves. So 1, 2. There is 1, 1, 2. There is 1. The y value is positive 1.5, 1, 2, 3. There's 1.5. The x value is negative 3, which is really how many squares when I use this scale? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, again, this is out of 3. If you didn't change the scale, of course, you would have this line, 1.5 and negative 3. And, of course, you notice they have the exact same slope, right? Because they're the same line. All you've done is change the numbers. Braden.
Can you have, like, the y-axis be different scale?
Yes. The only problem with that is when you're asked to find the slope, you can't count. We have a question like that where we weren't able to change the y-axis because we would have gone off the graph. If you do that, you're allowed, but remember, you can no longer count squares on the graph to find slope. You actually have to use the values. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because as you go further and deal with more and more data on more and more graphs, you will find that the scales are often different. But rate of change is still slope. So you're not able to count it on the graph. You have to use the values, right? Like, for example, if we were talking about pollutants in the air over a course of time, right? The years would go up by ones, but the pollutants in the air might go up by millions, right? Okay. Find that slope. Of course, as soon as you see that, you see there are 2 x's and 2 y's, so you give it x1, y1, x2, y2. Does it matter which one you make which? No. Of course not. As long as whoever you make x1, his partner, and I know I do this gender specific, I am sorry, his partner is y1. But it doesn't matter what order you do it in, okay? Most kids, I usually say, just make the first one x1, because it's the first one you see. Now, there's a problem with that. Sometimes you end up subtracting a negative, and you all forget that that means positive. So the other way I like to look at it is, if one of these is a negative, I often make that y and x 1. But again, that's just me. Whatever works for you. The point is, of course, if you write it out, you can't do it wrong. It doesn't matter which way you write it. So I'm going to write it in the most counterintuitive way possible. I'm going to make these guys my 2's, even though they're the first ones I see. And I'm going to make these guys my 1's. So m equals y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, and then you just fill it in. 3 minus 4 over negative 10 minus 2. 3 minus 4 is 1. Negative 10 minus 2. Even though you guys have so much trouble with this, you're allowed to use your calculator. It is, of course, negative 12, and that's the answer for 2 marks. Negative 1 over negative 12, so it's all positive. Find the slope of a line parallel to this. The key word is parallel. If the slope is parallel, then what is it? It's exactly the same. How can we find slope? We have lots of ways. You could isolate y. That's the easiest way to do it. Because once y is isolated, whatever number is with x is the slope. So, 5x equals 3y, right? Do I even care about the 12? No, because parallel, I only care about the slope. So I don't even care about the 12. So why did I move 3 over to here? It gets rid of the negative, because it's got to be isolated, yeah? Can't have a negative in front of it. Now what do I do to get rid of that 3? Divide by 3. Now y is isolated. What's the slope? 5/3. What's the slope of every parallel line? 5/3. That's your answer. Every parallel line will have that slope. Perpendicular. What's the key to a perpendicular line? Opposite sign and reciprocated fraction, yes? So if I find this slope, I'm going to change the sign and flip it, yes? So do I even care about the 10? Why not? It's not necessary for a slope, is it? So we don't care about the 10. So now I've got 7x plus 2y. What's got to move? I want y isolated. So what should you move? The 2 right now? I move the 7x first. Because that's how you do algebra. If you want to end up at y, you don't start at y. If we were driving to Disneyland, would we start driving in Los Angeles? No, because where are we right now? Abbotsford. So if our goal is to get to Disneyland, we cannot start in Disneyland. If we were digging for treasure, would we show up in the middle of the earth where the treasure is? No, we would have to dig to it. So we're going to move the 7x. So now I've got 2y equals negative 7x because I've moved it. And then what? Pardon me? Negative 7 over 2x. So that's the slope I have. What slope do I want? So what do I do to that? 2/7. Let's start calling fractions what they are. Right? We're in the 10th grade. 2/7. Yeah? Also for 2 marks. Because the only thing you really need to know there is parallel and perpendicular. It really should only be out of 1 because the algebra you should already be able to do. Now let's pretend just for 1 second because we have some time. Oh, I forgot that. I forget that when I isolate y, I get the slope. What's your other option? You make a table, yeah? And you sub in. Right? When x is 0, then negative 3y equals 12, so it would have to be negative 4, right? When x is 0, y is negative 4. And then when y is 0, x would be 12 over 5, right? Is that 2 x's and y's? And then you could do y2 over y1, or y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and then you could find your slope that way. But that's a lot more work than just isolating y. What have I got? Let's see. So I've got a line goes through that, and has that slope. Find another point that it goes through. All right. So where is negative 5, negative 2? Because that's the point you know, right? Where is it? I'm going to go left 5, down 2, right? Agreed? Okay. And what is my slope? Okay, so how do I show a slope of negative 2/3 on a graph? What are my options? Addison?
You go this way.
I could go down 2 and...
Across 3.
You're walking like an Egyptian from the old song.
No.
What does across mean? Left or right, Addison?
Right.
Right. Down 2 and right 3, correct? Well, what's down 2 from negative 2?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. And what's right 3 from negative 5?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. That's a point that would be on the line, yes? What is my other option? Up 2 and left 3, right? Well, what's up 2 from negative 2? 0. And what's left 3 from negative 5? Negative 8. Those are the 2 easiest. I trust everybody, if you did this question, have those 2. One of those 2. Because you only needed 1 point, right? Can you do this algebraically? Yeah, you can. Because y equals negative 2/3 x plus b, correct? Everyone agrees? What letter does that represent? X. Negative 2/3 times negative 5 plus b. What letter does that represent? Y. Negative 2. Now you could find out what b is. You could get slope-intercept form, and then you could use a table of values. That's a lot of work, though, right? Now, if you were going to do that, it would be 10/3 minus 2, which would be 3 1/3, negative 5 1/3. So y equaled negative 2/3 x minus 5 1/3. And then you could sub in numbers for x. And what would be the easiest number to sub in for x? What? 0. So when x was 0, y would be negative 5 1/3, which is the y-intercept, right? And is that a second point that's on the graph? Yes. Everybody understand? This is the entire key to the unit. That is an x, that is a y. Anytime you have x's and y's, you can put those numbers in. Always. For the rest of your math career. Because next year, it won't be a straight line. It'll be y equals 3x squared plus 2x plus 7. Can I still put those in for x and y? Yes. Everybody cool? All right. Determine if this is a right triangle. Well, if you're Addison, you checked all the slopes. And that's a pain, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, of course, you graph it first. Negative 4, or 4, negative 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. There's A. 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. There's B. Negative 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. There's C. Now, I don't know about you, but that to me looks like the only possible option. Now, let's say you were uncomfortable estimating your graph. Like, oh, Mr. Myers, I'm bad at that. Sometimes I make them too wide, and then the up and down isn't the same distance. How would you solve that problem? What? You could do it algebraically, but you could also come and get graph paper from me, couldn't you? And then it would be nice and exact. So if this is the one we're going to check, we have to check this slope, right? Which is the slope of CB. And we have to check this slope, which is the slope of AB. CB is, of course, right here. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Negative 2 minus 1 over negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 3 over negative 4, which is 3/4. Yeah? Then we check the other one. Now, I've already written x1 and y1 here, right? So what should I make this one? X2 and y2. Because I've already written that there. So, negative 2 minus 1 over 4 minus 2. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. 4 minus 2 is 2. Are they opposite reciprocals? No. So is this a right triangle? No. And that one would have been out of 2, and this one would have been out of 3. So that makes that page out of 5, and the front page out of 6, 8, 10, 12, making the whole thing out of 17. When will you give me those scores? Tomorrow on your quiz, right? Because you're going to write a quiz tomorrow. I have 9:20. The bells ring. The first bell rang at 8:08, 2 minutes earlier than it should have. So I'm going to assume that somehow the bells have changed schedules and you only have 8 minutes left in class. Use those 8 minutes. You have a quiz tomorrow. Okay? They are yours to use. Should you be asking me if you don't understand one of these things? Yes. If you don't want to ask me because for some reason I look like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things 1 and you're scared of me, then don't ask me. Ask somebody who got 17 out of 17. I know I don't look like the Demogorgon. I'm well aware of that. I can't remember what the bad things were in Stranger Things 2. And I'm getting a little tired of Stranger Things, so I didn't even watch Stranger Things 3. I stopped at the second or third episode. I don't even know what's going on. I mean, I'll probably watch it in the summer or something when I got nothing to do.
You should watch it too.
Huh?
You should watch it too.
What?
The show
Suits?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard Suits is good. I've never watched it. I like the actors in it. I've never watched it, though. I'm thinking about trying Klaus or Claus. I don't know what it's called. It just came out on Netflix. Hey, did any of you get Disney Plus?
No.
Is it any good? Does it work? I heard that it didn't work very well for a little while. It works? What's on it? It's all Disney, all Star Wars, and all Marvel, right?
Anything owned by Disney.
Yeah. No, I know. But they don't have any TV shows or anything going that aren't those three, right?
All the Disney Channel shows. They're mostly kids shows.
All the Disney Channel shows are on it? Oh, yeah? How much does it cost? $8 a month? Son of a bitch.
And that's for only 4 people at a time.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm tired of... So many people have my Netflix password. I'm tired of it. People can get their own damn Disney Plus. $8 a month, eh?
So is Netflix.
No, Netflix is $13 a month. It's $13.99. Might even be more.
If you add more accounts, it would get
Yeah, maybe I have 4. Maybe it's because I have more accounts on my Netflix. It's funny when I get the suggestions for Matthew to watch because so many people have my Netflix password. Netflix must have no idea what I like. But it's weird though because Netflix still has some Disney stuff. Like they have the Christmas special for The Incredibles is still on Netflix. Very strange.
I think because they license it to Netflix. So you can't
For a certain amount of time, probably. Yeah.
until that
Yeah.
contract is expired.
What I find funny is people used to complain that they didn't want to have to get cable to get all their shows. They wanted to be able to pick and choose. And now you can pick and choose, but you still have to buy everything to see everything. So if I want, Marvel shows and movies, I got to get Disney. If I want the Netflix stuff, I got to get Netflix. If I want to see Game of Thrones, I got to get Crave. If I want to watch every new good show ever, apparently I got to get Amazon because Amazon kicks ass. Oh yeah, Amazon TV. Yeah, it's got His Dark Materials is on it. It had The Man in the High Castle, which was wicked awesome. And what's that other new one that's just come out? Crave, Amazon. You can't get Hulu in Canada yet. Unless you have a VPN. And then you're kind of cheating. Disney, Netflix. Well, Warner Brothers is about to bring their own one out. And I'm sure Paramount is going to bring one out. And that's where all the Star Trek stuff is. And then there's somebody else. I can't remember who. Amazon. Well, YouTube is starting now.
YouTube sucks.
No, YouTube TV is starting now. Everyone started bad. But they have so much money.
No, they started good.
Oh, did they?
They're,
Isn't that like YouTube?
YouTube itself is just going.
What?
Would you like pay to watch like YouTube TV shows? Isn't that YouTube?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Premium or whatever.
Yeah. But all these companies have so much money, they can hire really good talent to make their shows. Because the actors don't care how many people see them. They're getting paid crap tons. But it's good for families like